Well, hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Celeste Harrison, and I'm so excited to welcome you to Explore Classroom today. At National Geographic, we believe in the power of exploration and wonder and storytelling to change our world for the better. This Explorer Classroom YouTube show connects students like you from all over the world with our National Geographic Explorers for short lessons and tons of time for your questions. If you've seen this show before, you may notice that I'm somewhere else. I am away from my workspace visiting with my family. So today I would like to introduce you to someone new, my friend and colleague, Gina Borgia, who you'll see hosting several upcoming Explore Classroom events. Gina, over to you.
Thank you, Celeste. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be hosting Explorer Classroom here today. Today, our explorer is Anselmo Matusse. Anselmo is an anthropologist and environmental scientist. He's here today to talk about his project about Mount Mabu in central Mozambique, which is focused on the changing relations between local communities and the mountain. We'll learn all about his ethnographic work, or studying of culture and customs with the local communities, and hear about how the mountain suddenly became popular internationally in the media as Google Forest after it was put on a conservation map in 2005, and what impact that has had on the land and the people that have been there all along. But before we get into today's lesson, let's welcome all of our friends tuning in from across the US and Canada and around the world. Shout outs for today go to Orlando Science Elementary, St. Thomas More, Roundtree Public School, Lakehead Virtual, Freedom Elementary, J.S. Buchanan, Wilshire Elementary, Jacob G., St. Veronica, South Jones Elementary, Ellsworth Hill, Cristo Ray Richmond, Jerome D. Mack Middle School, Silver Run, Webster Elementary, Drexel Hill, Rancho Romero, Meadow Ridge, PS 219, Franklin Academy, Mrs. Reeves class, Kid Conservationist, and the Churchill School. It's so lovely to have you all here today. And with that, let's get this Explorer Classroom started. It's time to turn it over to Anselmo to share all about Mount Mabu. Take it away, Anselmo.
Thank you very much, Gina. And thank you everybody for tuning in. It's such a great pleasure for me to be able to share my work with you today. So I'm gonna start sharing the screen right now. Okay, so as Gina was saying, my work is on Mount Mabu. And Mount Mabu, okay, so here it is. So I'm gonna be talking about my work on Mount Mabu. So what I'm gonna be sharing this presentation, first of all, is going to be my ethnographic experience in terms of how I got to know about Mount Mabu and my experience with local people living there with Mount Mabu. Then the second thing that I would like to kind of drive home in this short conversation is how people there live with Mount Mabu and how important it is for us to be able to learn from them. So, sorry, I'll move next. So Mount Mabu is located in Mozambique. I don't know how many of you know where Mozambique is, but it's right here. That to do a geography class. So when I learned about Mount Mabu, I was doing my studies in Cape Town, which is right here, down south. So that's where I was doing my studies. And as Gina mentioned, I learned about Mount Mabu through news articles that I read. And most of those news articles that I read, they kind of talked about the different species that were discovered there. They talked about these scientists from the UK that discovered the mountain, and very exciting stories that they shared. But what I noticed is that the more I read about these stories, it seemed that people who live there were not present. So I did not have any information about the people who live there with Mount Mabu. So that made me in 2016 prepare like a field trip starting from Cape Town all the way to Johannesburg. and then to Maputo city. That's where I was born. And then from Maputo, I took a bus all the way. So where's my mouse? Okay, it is. So all the way to central Mozambique, and that's Zambezia province, which is really bordering with Malawi. Um, yeah, so that's where Mount Mabu is located. So once I arrived in Mokuba, which is one of the cities from where you can go to Mount Mabu, these were back then the options to be able to get closer to the field and to get to know the people who were living there. The main transport systems that they have there, they included trucks. You can see here the bottom left picture. And then that's me on the top right, sitting on the truck going to the field. And this is a bicycle and here's a motorcycle. And also people do walking to move from one place to the other one. So that's how I got to Mount Mabu. And this is how people were traveling back then. I know for a fact that now this road has been paved and the transport has improved a little bit lately. So as anthropologists, one of the methods that we use to be able to gather information is called ethnography. And when you do ethnography, what you do, you move to the place where people live, and then you live with them, you listen to their stories, you gather their experiences, and then through all that involvement, you get to know about their lives, their aspirations, their desires, and most importantly, some of the pressing issues that they're dealing with in the present. So this is me at the top with Kalishtu in the middle and his brother Andre. And then we're talking about how to get to the summit of Mount Mabo, which is right there. So as an ethnographer, one of your best friends in terms of tools is going to be like a diary in which like you write the different experiences, the different observations that you made throughout the day, because you can easily forget. And sometimes people don't feel comfortable sharing their stories in a voice recorder. So a diary, like the, like a solicitude and quiet of my tent, which is down here. So I kind of like joined down all the things that happened throughout the day, so I couldn't forget. So what I learned through this experience is that in Mount Mabo, there is these people, I mean, like around Mount Mabo, there are different communities. It's like 4 of them. There's Bava, there's Nimbwe, there's Namadoi, and there's Nangazi. And each one of those local communities have one local leader. And that local leader is from a specific lineage or clan. And they are matrilineal, which means that the power or the person who's appointed moves from the mother side. So it's like the nephew from the mother side is one who's appointed to be the next leader. And for them, it was very important to have Mount Mabo as, for one of the things that give them power and authority to be able to rule over people and the area. And one of the things that I learned a lot was that for you to be able to visit the forest, you need to get permission from them. So you don't just go there, like you talk with him and then he makes like a traditional ceremony to be able to receive you in the forest. So a second group of people that also talked with were farmers, smallhold farmers. In the area, most people, they do agriculture. So like agriculture is their main economic activity, right? And in agriculture, everybody takes part, like in the household, children, mother, father, everybody takes part. And they do have specific roles for each one of the people involved. So this is this is like a farmhouse that they have. And as you can see there in the back, you have like different, like the maize that is stacked. That's like the storage house. And here is where they cook. And these are the pans that they use to be able to prepare their food. And what happens is because most of these local residents, they do have their farms too far away from their houses. And to be able to work in the farms, like from Monday to Friday, they need to live there because going back and forth is too much work and takes a lot of time. So they sleep there from Monday to Friday, as I said before. And this is the house where they live, like the whole household. For example, the picture showed you like back here. So most like this is the family and these are the children. They slept in that house. And we slept in the tent. This is Kalishto, my field assistant. And the other important thing that I also learned about Mount Mabu and the people living there is that there are people like Mr. Andre here, who is a traditional healer. And what traditional healers do, they go to the forest to pick up plants to be able to heal people that are sick. And because nearby there are no health centers, like they have to walk long distance to be able to get like hospitals or like health centers to be able to be healed. And the maybe the only way to get like access, like quick access to modern medicines and treatment is through this figure called agente de saúde, who moves from community to community, bringing like, medicines with him, and then they treat like very generic diseases. But because this is in this is in Nangazi, there is no hospital nearby, so people rely mostly on Andre to be able to, and other people who are like him to be able to cure their diseases. And the other fascinating figure that kind of emerged in the like during my ethnographic experience, sorry, was the hunters. The forest and the mountain are very important for the hunters, and they have been hunting since a very early age with their parents, with their brothers, and also with their fellow community members. And this experience of hunting throughout the years generates a wealth of knowledge about the forest, about the places that you can go, about the places that you should not go, about the different rituals that you're supposed to observe to be able to be successful in getting your bound, and also be able to return home safe. And this is Mr. Angelo. He's from Vava. And one of the things that he told me when I was there is that for the hunters, it's important for them to show respect to the forest. So you don't just go there and take things. You don't just go there and start like randomly killing animals, but you have to respect. You have to, for example, if you go hunting for a specific species, and that's like when they're doing collective hunting, that's what you're going to be hunting, right? Um, they have two kinds of hunting here. They have like what they call individual hunting and the collective hunting. And the individual hunting, usually they use ropes, gin traps, and those kind of like traps to be able to capture their prey. And that's becoming lately very predominant because it's like the easiest way for people to be able to get access to animal protein without having to share with a larger group if they go hunting in a very big collective, as used to be the case in the past. Okay, so now I'm gonna jump a little bit out of the forest and talk about how people build their houses and infrastructures in the area. So as you can see, even though we're not inside of the forest is made outside to their living spaces. People rely a lot on local material that they find in the forest to be able to build their houses. And here, as you can see in the, my cursor disappeared again. Okay, it is. So here in the top left, you can see a young man who is building a house using bamboo sticks that he collected from the forest. And here, like at the bottom, you see people that have used clay, and then they burned it to be able to make conventional like building houses. And then they use sand, not sand, but clay has mortar as well to be able to put the blocks together. And this here used to be an infrastructure that was destroyed during the civil war that happened in Mozambique from 1976 to 1992, and was throughout the whole country, mostly like it's throughout the whole country, north, center, and south of Mozambique. So this house here, as you can see, one side has been rehabilitated and they covered with reed, and this part they use for adult education there. So that's a school. So how do they get access to water? Most water that people use there, they get through the streams, they get through the river, and also I saw people collecting water from the rain. So those are the main sources of getting water. And this here is in Limbwe, and this was in uh, Nangazi, and this is River Mugwe. And as you can see, people use the same water, like mostly from the rivers, not the boreholes, but they use the water from the river to take a bath, to wash clothes, for cooking, and for all different uses that you can imagine water to be used for. And another fascinating thing that I learned about people there is that whenever there was a problem in the community, they would gather around and they would talk about that problem to be able to find solutions in collective. And here is a collage of photos from two different events, from two different gatherings. This one is the same as this one. And here you can see me sitting right there. And what I'm doing there is what is the central aspect of ethnography, which is to sit and listen to people, not steer the conversations, not try to drive people to say things that you want to listen to, but actively just sit and listen what people are talking about, what they're concerned about. And in these two events, as you can see, from this photo on the right, you have like women sitting on one side, and then you had men sitting on the other side. And this was very consistent in terms of the different observations that I've made, that whenever there's this collective gathering, people, women and men did not mix. So they said like separately, and nobody's told actually to do that. It just happens. You just see it happening, which means it's part of their culture. It's part of how they've been doing things throughout the years. And in this, however, like you might look at the settings of it and think that maybe women don't have power, don't have a say in these gatherings. They do have a say. They can say something. And I've seen cases of women kind of like, like speaking to a point and then arguing for it, like in front of everybody, and everybody listened. So that was one of the fascinating things I learned about these communities. So because when I was there, it was not just like serious stuff that I witnessed as an ethnographer. So these were photos I took in Limbwe after I spent some 3 months in Nangazi. So the first day I went there into Limbwe, there was a football match that was happening, and this was a football match between people who worked in like local companies and local residents. So they have organized that match to be able to create these kind of synergies between like the company workers and the local people as well. And these other photos you can see here is these 1, 2, 3, 4 photos. This is a fair, and this is one of the things I also learned when I got there. During, as I said, during Monday, like throughout Monday to Friday, like if you were to go to the public market, you won't find anybody there because people are busy growing food, are busy like at their farms. But if you go on Sunday, and because people belong to the Seventh Day Adventist Church, which means the Sunday is the important day for them to be able to go to church. So what that means is like on Saturdays, that's when people go to church, and then on Sundays, That's when people go to the fairs to be able to celebrate and have a good time. And these fairs, they usually depend a lot on agriculture. For example, if like the agricultural production was not very good, it is very likely that you won't find many people here. And it was very good and people were able to produce a lot and sell their produce, then you will see a lot of people and a lot of party going on. So why am I sharing these stories with you? Why are all these stories important? My work happens in a context in which, like globally speaking, we're talking about biodiversity laws. There is evidence in scholarly writing about mass extinctions. Now talking about deforestation, specifically in Mozambique as well. And in Mozambique, mostly in central Mozambique, where I did my field work, Zambeza province, deforestation is a big problem. And usually it connects both legal and illegal logging companies. They work kind of like in a very ambivalent, not very clear ways. And this has caused a lot of worries and concerns among the state workers, conservationists, and also local people. And because of the other problems I've talked about, like the biodiversity loss, the mass extinction, and deforestations, which are created by human activity. So what happens is that there is this push of finding pristine areas to be able to protect them, right? And Mount Mabu is one of those areas that was found and was very in a very good state. So there is this push from NGOs, from the scientists to protect the mountain. And one of the biggest concerns in that, even though it's important to protect like landscapes, it's a necessary thing. What usually ends up happening in Mozambique and most like like Southern African countries is that the people are left behind. People are not included in these conversations. They're not included in those negotiations. And as I said before, and as I shared before, local people in Nangazi, Bava, Limwe, and Amadoi, they very much depend on agriculture. They very much depend on soil, on land to be able to have their livelihoods sustained. And pardon, there's some sip of water. Mhm. Yes. So they do depend on land to be able to grow their food. And what ends up happening is that there's major displacements and most often without proper compensations. So this is one of the things that my work was trying to do, to kind of like show that Mount Mabu is not unpopulated. Mount Mabu is not just a wilderness area. There are people there. And if we are to effectively protect the mountain, which is necessary, we also need to be able to include and recognize these people as well. So this is what I'm trying to drive with these conversations. So this is a sign that was put there by one of the NGOs that has been working with local communities to protect the areas. So if you ever go there to visit, and this is like one of the things that they say is like, do not litter. If you don't find, if you do find, please take it with you. Litter in this case, no fires, do not smoke, and do not take any sample of specimens without due authorization. And with that, I understand from the state, because for you to be able to do like scientific work or to collect any specimens, you need to have proper permits to be able to do that. And I think one of the things I wanted to add with my conversation thus far is that if you are to visit there, or anybody else who's interested in visiting Mount Mabu, make sure you also talk with local communities and make sure you also respect the existing structures there to be able to control access to the forest. So I think I can stop here, and I'm really looking forward to having your questions. Yes.
Agreed, that's so important. So we have one final question for you today, Anselmo. Do you have any advice for the young people watching today?
I I mean, I think at this moment, what I can do is like to kind of use one advice or one kind of affirmation I got from somebody who's like your age, who interviewed me in like we had a conversation, a podcast. And what that person told me was that people think that children are for the future. Like your time is in the future. You are the future of the country. You're the future of the nation. You're the future of whatever it is that you're future of. But you're also the present, right? So try to be able to explore that. Try to be able to see what you can do today, right? Like being as being a child, being a person who is interested in different kind of things. Try to understand that your time is now, and as when the future comes, it's gonna come. But this is your time as well. So that's all I can say now.
Thank you. That is fabulous advice. And thank you, Anselmo, for doing this work and for taking the time to hang out with us and to share it. And thank you to teachers and families who make cool stuff happen like this for your kids. And thank you most of all to the students. You guys have the best questions. As always, you can check out Explorer Classroom and many more free and amazing educational resources at natgeoed.org. I hope you join many more of our events. This time next week, we're back with Isla K. Davison to learn all about how she's studying how fish communicate with each other on busy coral reefs. We've got plenty more events before we leave for summer break on June 10th, so check back. And remember, you can check out our schedule and register your student group for a shout out and a chance to be featured on screen at natgeoed.org/Explorer Classroom. Happy Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Happy Jewish Heritage Month. Have a great day, everyone. Stay curious and keep exploring. We'll see you back here soon.